Hello students, welcome back to SuperKalam. I am your mentor Madhur and we are continuing with the next set of classes from the initiative SuperStart with NCERT. So with respect to polity, we have covered quite a lot of things till now from class 11th NCERT, Indian Constitution at Work. We have covered about constitution, the details of constitution, what its essence is, what its functions are. Then we also covered about rights in the Indian Constitution. We focused on a lot of fundamental rights. All classes are already there on our YouTube channel. You can watch them if you haven't watched. Then we also talked about legislature and executive. Now, legislature and executive, we saw that how these two organs are very integrated. India follows a parliamentary system of democracy wherein executive and legislature are integrated. Then we also understood the third organ of government, which was judiciary. Very important. Judiciary, as a defender of the constitution, holds a significant role in our democracy. We also did spend time on the last chapter, which was philosophy of Indian constitution. We understood in this various aspects of preamble, the values of equality, liberty, fraternity, the concept of republic, democratic, etc. So these things we have covered as of now. And before starting this video, I would advise that you go through these chapters if you haven't, because ultimately the next set of chapters which I will be starting today are will build upon these concepts, these basics which I have already told you, right? So let's start with this chapter, today's class on federalism. Now, this federalism is chapter number 7, of your class 11th NCERT, Indian Constitution at Work. We will understand it through stories, through a lot of fun. I'll also do something different this time at the end. So wait for it, and it will help you in your answers also, right? So before understanding federalism, now it is there are two aspects to it. First, what federalism is, and second, why it is needed. Now, federalism, if simple terms, if I tell you, it's given in your NCERT also, very simply, very beautiful definition. Federalism is an institutional mechanism to accommodate two set of governments. That means it's a structure in any country wherein two or even more set of governments are incorporated. For example, in India, what we have center, the central government, we have state governments, then we also have local governments. So India, there are more than two sets of governments. Now, local governments I'll cover in further videos, but the essence of federalism is that these two organs, center and state, are accommodated. They are somewhat independent also. They function in an independent manner. They are not they do not rely on one another for their functioning. So this is basically the structure. And in India, you must be knowing that in India we have central at center headed by Prime Minister. There is a government. Then in the state, whatsoever state you belong to, there is a government headed by a CM, and at the state. So this is a structure which we always read about, always discuss in news. Now, the concept which is important to be understood here is why this kind of a structure is needed. Your NCERT very nicely talks about it. This why part becomes important from conceptual understanding also, because concepts becomes basis of polity in UPSC exam. So before starting why, I want to tell you one story. You must be knowing that there was USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. So it was a country. This country had lot of different territories. For example, under USSR, there was Russia, there was Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, even Ukraine, and all were part of it. Right now, the war is going on, but this all were part of USSR at one time. Now, during Cold War, all this was happening. They were united. They were a part of USSR during Cold War. Now, because of lot of diversity, see the sheer size of this country USSR was very large. Even today, Russia is the largest country, and Russia with all these elements would have been much bigger. So that was the one thing. First was size issue, the geographical size. The second was there was a lot of diversity. Now there were Russian speaking people. Now the language of people from Ukraine and all was very different. Then these were completely different countries altogether, religion wise also, like Muslim dominated countries here in Central Asia. Then Russia was an Orthodox Christian country. So there were a lot of diversity involved. But the USSR was very centralized. So during Cold War, Stalin, Lenin, these all were very centralized, following very centralized system of Communist Party. So what happened was gradually these small states on the periphery, they started complaining that our views, our language, our culture basically is not respected. This is very centralization, etc. And gradually, what happened towards the end of Cold War, they all disintegrated. Now today, what we have, Russia is different, Kazakhstan is different, Ukraine is different, and even today we have a lot of conflicts. Also, the recent conflict of Russia Ukraine is somewhere driven by the USSR era conflicts, which was on the basis of diversity between Ukraine and Russia, because of which they separated also. So, this current affairs is somewhere related to the concept of federalism itself. So that's why it becomes important that for such a large country, such a diverse country, it becomes important that there is a certain set of institutional mechanism, where local governments, small governments, state governments are also given some kind of autonomy, some kind of power. So that becomes the importance of federalism. Now, in your NCERT, I'll show you. So your NCERT talks about this story, and it also talks about the unity in diversity concept. You can see here, right? So that's why federalism becomes important. First, first point you can write, to accommodate diversity. Now there is one more example. Pakistan got divided in 1971. There was East Pakistan and West Pakistan. East Pakistan was linguistically inclined towards Bengali, but the West Pakistan was putting Urdu and other languages on it, the Punjabi sections. What ultimately happened? This centralization, this domination, ultimately led to the partition of that country. So that's what learning we should have, that whatever happened in USSR, whatever happened in partition and all, that we very smartly, our constitution very smartly accommodated that diversity. We are not only unity in diversity, we are unified with diversity. So that's the key thing. Because of federalism, that has happened. Now we will deep dive into the concept of federalism. You have understood that why federalism is important. Now let's deep dive into it. So before going into Indian version of federalism, so experts generally try to consider USA as the best example of federalism. Now I will come to this also, why it is it best or it is not. That is a different thing. We will discuss that also. But USA's federalism, called dual federalism, so it is very much, you know, uh, experts say that this is the best example of federalism. And what is there in USA system? There's a those USA was formed not out of constitution, or say like India. It was formed when couple of states, initially 13 states, they came together and they said, let's create a country called USA. So it was through agreement among states that USA came into being. And the states are indestructible. Indestructible means the USA as a whole cannot merge states, cannot change name of states, cannot make more states, cannot divide states. That's the meaning of indestructible. So this is said that because of this, states are very powerful in USA. And because states are very powerful in USA, it is said that it is the best example of federalism. But in India, what we say, states have not agreed to make India as a union. India was already existing, and our constitution says that India will be a union of states. So India is described in constitution. It was not made out of agreement from states, and states are destructible. For example, Uttarakhand was created, Chhattisgarh was created. Still, a lot of demands of different states creation is there. So that means that in India, the states can be divided. but in USA cannot. Now you must understand that this Western, this Eurocentrism, that USA's federalism is best, we shouldn't accept it, because federalism, it's always said, is very unique, very dynamic concept. Our federalism is unique to us. Their federalism is unique to them. Our federalism is cooperative. We are not strictly separated. Our federalism is cooperative in nature. That's the difference between India and USA. So if anyone says that USA's federalism we should adopt, then no, not blindly. USA has a different set of conditions. We have a different set of conditions. Our federalism is good, is unique in our own sense. We will cover all this in today's class, how it is unique. Let's see the other aspects of federalism between India and USA. Now, in India, our constitution talks about three lists. We will discuss this in details: union list, state, and concurrent lists. And the center makes laws on union subject, state makes laws on state subject, and both union and state makes laws on concurrent subject. But in USA, there is a very clear division between federal and state, between state and center. There is no concept of concurrent. All the residuary elements, all the elements which are not listed in any list, they all are legislated by states. But in India, these residuary powers are made laws by center. Then with respect to judiciary, in India, I told you in last class on judiciary, in India we have a single judiciary. You know, high courts, Supreme Courts, even lower courts can hear cases against center, against any state. But in USA, uh, this Supreme Court can in most of the times can hear cases against central government only. In the same way, there is some state of, for example, Washington or state of New York. Now it will have a different high court. That high court will have jurisdiction in that state only, but in India it is not. India, we have integrated judiciary, we have merged everything. In terms of citizenship also, now in India we have a single citizenship, whether you are a member of Uttar Pradesh, whether you are a resident of Karnataka, Kerala, Kashmir, you are citizen of India. But in USA, you are citizen of USA also, and that particular state also, of which you are a member. Now, suppose you are a member of Texas, you live in Texas, you are Texas citizen. Then you are citizen of Texas also, you are citizen of USA also. But in India, there is a no concept of citizenship of Kerala, citizenship of Uttar Pradesh. We have a single citizenship. So that's how, if you can observe here, we are very much, we have created this single concept, single judiciary, single citizenship. State is a little bit of more powerful, so we are more inclined towards accepting diversity also and creating unity also in certain angles, unity in citizenship, unity in judiciary. But in USA everything is divided very hard and fast. That's the difference between there and ours. Now USA's federalism is basically uh, follows their own set of things. Our federalism follows our own set of things, so that's why it's not comparable. So if in future there can be a question that compare the federalism of India and USA in GS2, then you will appreciate both federalisms, both types of federalism, but you will say that India's federalism is important for India's condition because we are a lot of diversity, right? Now let's understand about federalism in India, the nitty-gritties of federalism in Indian constitution. Now, as I told you in last slide, in India, there is a division of power. There is a division of legislative power. Now, how legislative power is divided? Now, when I say legislative power is divided, it means that who makes law on what subject is divided between union and state. You can see this list. In our constitution, there is a schedule 7. It talks about these lists. Now there is a union list on which the Parliament of India can make laws. There is a state list on which the state legislature makes laws. Concurrent list in which both center and state, both Parliament and state legislature can make laws. But if there is a conflict, then obviously Parliament's law will prevail. Now, for example, in union list we have defense, we have atomic energy, foreign affairs, banking, railways. On these subjects, centers or parliament make laws. Then in state, we have police. Police is under state, land, public health. These are all state subjects. In the same way, concurrent we have education. Now, education pay, center can also make laws, state can also make laws. That's why, because both make laws, that's why there are obviously there are some elements of conflict which keeps on happening. I'll tell examples of this also in further slides. Then there is forest. On forest also both can make laws. So basically, this is the division which our constitution has given. Now, because of this division, our constitution itself divides the legislative powers, the lawmaking power between center and state. That's the basic essence of federalism. One of the essence of federalism, you can say. Then there is an administrative division also. It is said that center will administer those subjects for which its parliament has legislative power. For example, center will administer on banking issues. RBI is there, although RBI is independent, but RBI very in very close association works with Ministry of Finance. Then railways, all kind of administration of railway is done by center. Why? Because railway is a legislative subject of union list. In the same way, financial powers are divided. Now, for example, uh, there is a land revenue thing. Uh, if you are taxing agriculture and all land revenue things, then that is a purview of state governments. But income tax is a purview of central government. So that financial powers was also divided. And I will tell in the further slide that there's a concept of GST, which has created a dependency, because in GST there is a GST council. GST council has both members from center and the state. So there, that hard division is not there. People or representatives from state as well as union come to a body and they take decisions collectively. That's how the cooperation works. Not very strict separation in finance. In USA, there is a strict separation of finance, but in India, there is a more of a cooperative system, right? So this is the division of power between center and states in India: legislative, administrative, finance. But also, as I told you in last slide, also in our Indian Constitution, center is a bit strong. Why it is strong? Because we have to ensure that there is a central body which addresses disparities. Now, India has so much of diversity. If there will be the center will not be strong, there can be cases that some states becomes very proactive and try to, come out of Indian dominion. There were a lot of uh, uh, successionist tendencies which were there after partition. Pakistan got separated, but also in India there was a basically separation talks which were going on in Jammu and Kashmir, even in Nagaland. So that's why, to accommodate all this, it was essential, it was realized by our constitution makers that our constitution should give a strong center. This is the reason. And this is visible also. How? There is a provision of emergency. Emergency, I told you, three types of emergency. Now, during emergencies, the central government has to take recommendations, has to accept recommendations of the center. There's a one type of emergency, president's rule. Now, during president's rule, the central governments come under state government. The central government in which, sorry, the state government in which president rule is there, that comes under the central government. So that in that way, the federalism in that state for some times is finished. So that is because there is are some emergency situation because of which center is needed to take control. Then there are concurrent subjects, I told you, like education is in concurrent subject. Now, education is one thing in which there is some kind of uniformity required. There's kind of some basic uniformity required. That's why concurrent list may it has been put. Now there has been fight also with respect to this, like for NEET and all. There was this new education policy, three language formula. Center recommended three language formula, and Tamil Nadu is basically not agreeing to it because of its own reasons. So because of this, the cases are going in courts also, because center can here override state government because it is a concurrent subject. Now this all cases going on. Then there's governor also. Now governor ensures that the central government, the state government is doing all the governance work within constitution, and governor can report this thing to president, the central government. And if his report is accepted, there can be a president rule in a state. So here also center has an edge. Similarly, all India services are there. Now the exam for you all are preparing, all India services, IAS, IPS. Now these are recruited by center. recruited by UPSC, which is which works in association with the central government, and they are trained by, they have a control. They are trained by the Ministry of Personnel under Prime Minister at the center, but they goes in the state. So state do have their say in all India services, but the ultimate say is with the central government. Here also center is strong. So that's why we have the Indian, the forefathers, the leaders, our constitutional makers have purposely made center strong so that all kind of separatist tendencies, all kind of disputes between states are well addressed by center. In this regard only, central government has also been given more financial powers. Now income tax is levied by center. Now with GST coming in, again center has a very crucial role. Now center decides which states, whether one state can take foreign loans or not, whether one state cannot take loans. So that in financial matters also, the say of center becomes more. Now that is important because in India there is poverty in some sections. For example, the eastern regions of India, they are comparatively poor. The region of Bihar, Odisha, the western and the southern regions are comparatively rich. Now, if strong center will not be there, that redistribution of financial resources will not be possible. But that is important. Why? Because as a country we have to grow. So that's why center has been kept strong. That was the rationale. That was the reason why central government was kept strong. There is one more thing. Now, all states are not equal. There is This is the concept of asymmetric federalism. Now, one thing I told you in Rajya Sabha when I was teaching Rajya Sabha, that some states like Uttar Pradesh, due to its sheer population, has 31 seats in Rajya Sabha, while Delhi as a union territory has 3 seats. In the same way, small states like Mizoram has just 1 seat. So all states are not equally represented. But what happens in USA is USA has upper house called Senate. In Senate, all 50 states has two members. So there are total 100 members. Now this is people say that this is a real meaning of federalism. All states are equal. But in India we have asymmetry. Some states more seats on the basis of population. Now, it has its own reason. We have preferred population basis because these small states are very less in population. Big states are very much have large population. That's why we have created this asymmetry. At the same time, this article, earlier there was Article 370 also, but now it has been abrogated. Now we have Article 371 already. In 371 there are special provisions for few states like Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka. There is a special provision for Manipur, Nagaland. Now Nagaland may there is a special provision. Governor is given a lot of powers with respect to law and order. Then there are provisions with respect to Sikkim, special provisions. So these special provisions are given for few states which are very much, where there is a need to give a special provision. Now these states are very small, culturally very unique. That's why these should be given some kind of special protection. So these has been given under Article 71. Now, these has not been given to other states like Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat. That's why there is a asymmetry. That's why we say that there is a asymmetry in our federalism. So I hope you must have understood the features of Indian federalism. There's a division of power, legislative, administrative, financial. Center is strong. All states are not equal. Few states are given some special permissions to in order to preserve their culture and all. Right? But there are conflicts also in our India's federal system. And obviously, conflicts are very natural. In such a big country, there have to be certain conflicts. But what becomes important is we address these conflicts. We do not let these conflicts become so wide, so strong that they create a law and order situation in the country. So, what are the few of those conflicts? Popular conflicts, I'll tell you. There is a conflict between center and state. How? I already told you about education and this three language formula, the national education policy. There's a conflict between Tamil Nadu government and the central government with respect to this. In the same way, there are other conflicts also. For example, uh, in uh, in Kerala's case, also there are conflicts. Kerala went to Supreme Court citing that central is not giving enough funds to it. That is also a center-state conflict. So this keeps on happening. The important thing is this should be addressed in a very consensus in a very consensus manner. Then there is a demand for autonomy also. Now, right now it's somewhat stopped, but earlier for countries for this few states, for example, Nagaland was demanding autonomy. There were few states like Mizoram also. There was some. Even today also there are few separatist insurgent groups who are demanding autonomy from the country itself. So that's a conflict. Then there is a conflict on concurrent subject. For example, you must remember the farm agitations against the farm bills which were going. Now I showed you that agriculture is in a state subject. Now there was a conflict how on a subject called agriculture, how can a center make laws? In the same way, there are concurrent subjects, for example, education. How on an education subject, which is in the concurrent list, how can center government unilaterally make a law, make a policy? That was the allegation. That was a concern of the states. So there is this discussion on concurrent subjects also. Then there is a talk about financial autonomy. I already told you. Now, state governments have very little subjects on which it can tax. For example, land revenues and all. Very less number of subjects. But center has a very resource-rich taxation policies, income tax policy. It is very resource-rich. Then excise duties, custom duties, all these went to go to state, central government. So central government has more financial power in this case. So that's why states get concerned. And now with GST, states are worried that GST, earlier few taxes which are now a part of GST were there with the state. Now they have been subsumed under GST. So now states are concerned that with respect to GST also they have to go to center. The release of funds, the release of SGST funds are delayed. Right? These all are complaints by state governments. State governments, although today have an autonomy to levy VAT on petrol and diesel. That's a very big source of revenue for states. But overall, there's some kind of lopsidedness. Central has more resources and powers. So that's the conflict in terms of financial domain. Then with respect to president and governor, also there's a conflict. Many states they complain that governor is partial. So many states complain that governor is not taking action. They are taking they are reserving bills unnecessarily. They are not signing the bills. The recent case only which went into Supreme Court with respect to Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu complained that governor is not signing the bills on time. So so there is allegation that governor is taking you know help from the center. It shouldn't be done. So these are allegations which keep on going. But there is also a state conflict. For example, on Kaveri water, there is a conflict between Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. So there is a state conflict also. So it's not that only center state conflict is there. So this is also one thing which you should remember. Now, for this type of concepts, you should, besides having conceptual understanding, you should also have a lot of examples. I gave you a lot of examples. In the same way, in current affairs, in news, a lot of examples keeps on coming. Federalism becomes a very important topic from not only just prelims perspective but mains perspective also. And these type conflicts kya hai, what can be the solution? These are the very favorite concepts with UPSC asks. Now we have problems in our federalism. We have our own unique set of federalism, but our federalism, unlike dual federalism, is something very different. It is cooperative and comparative federalism. We are dependent on one another. Center is dependent on the states for policy implementation. State is dependent on center for funds. So we have to cooperate. They both have to cooperate. And states have to compete also. There's a lot of competition, a lot of indexes. There's export promotion index, a lot of indexes. So these states compete that we have to become ahead. We have to come ahead. So this is the basic essence of our federalism. So that's why in federalism question, you should always appreciate the federalism of India and you should mention its cooperative form. You should always also know that there are conflicts. If conflicts are asked, you should highlight them also, but in a very subtle tone. Do not take any sides as such. Now, in India, we have a lot of institutions, lot of policies, lot of arrangements in our constitution also and outside the constitution also, which enables this cooperation, this competition. And these are also the organs, these are also the ways through which the conflicts, which I told you in the earlier slide, you can solve them through this. For example, there is a concept of interstate council. Article 263 talks about it. Article 263 says that president can create an interstate council. Now, these will consist of central government also, mostly prime minister and few ministers, and then representatives from state government also, like chief ministers. Now, if you have such body, you can do discussion on topics. For example, health, you can do discussions. Health, then education, you can do discussion. Education is a concurrent subject. So, such platforms are very good to discuss these things, or rather, you can say to cooperate on these things. So there, if there is any conflict on education, which is right now going on, this can be a platform to solve this. Then there are zonal councils. Now this is not mentioned in constitution, but there is a zonal councils for all zones. Like recently, only 2 days back, 3 days back, last week, I think, I do not remember it exactly. There was a meeting of Eastern Zonal Council. Now Eastern Zonal Council, Eastern states, for example, West Bengal, Bihar, Odisha, Jharkhand, these states, they come together, and there is a home minister also who basically chairs the meeting, and there's a discussion. Now it's important zonal council because every zone has a different aspirations, different problems. Now this eastern zone is comparatively, there is a lot of poverty in this zone, so its focus can be different. That's why it ensures that a region, eastern region or western region, also for western region, we also have western zonal council. So this type of zonal council ensure that there's a coordination between the states of that particular zone. Then there's a GST council. I already told you, it is a constitutional arrangement in which central and state come together, the finance ministers, and they discuss about the financial matters. There are a lot of discussions going on with respect to whether petrol and diesel should be coming in GST. So these discussions keep on going on. Then there's Niti Aayog. Now it is extra constitutional body. It is neither statutory body, not constitutional body. But here policy discussion happens. Now if there are some, it is called a policy think tank. Now when there is a discussion on policy, Niti Aayog takes suggestions from the states. States representatives are there in Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog gives a lot of reports. Those reports create competitions between states. So that's the role of Niti Aayog. Then there is Finance Commission. Article 280 talks about Financial Commission. Now every 5 years, Financial Commission is appointed, and this Financial Commission basically decides how funds should be divided between center and state. Right? That's it. Now you tell me, which is the recent Financial Commission which was constituted, and who is the chairperson of that Financial Commission? You have to tell me in the comment. Then there's the All India Service also. Now, as I told you, All India services are basically trained by the center, but the immediate work is done at the state level. So that type of through that also there is a competition, there is a cooperation between center and state, right? So India, these are not. This is not an exhaustive list. There were other things also, which through which center and state cooperates. There is this inter-state water dispute system, whole tribunal system on which there is a dispute addressal in terms of water under Article 262. That is also there. So that's why through this our federalism is strengthened, our cooperation is strengthened. And if any conflict is there, we should use these platforms to resolve that conflict. Right. So this is the basically the end of federalism chapter. Now I want to show you some questions. I have already listed some questions. Let's see questions on federalism. Cooperative federalism also, it's there. So cooperative federalism is directly near. Let's see federalism. Federal government. These all are related to federalism. Now see. Yeah, let's see this question. Which one of the following in Indian polity is an essential feature that indicates the federal character in India? Now so federal character, then there is a unitary character. Strong state is a unitary character, and federal character are what? Let's see through this example. Independence of judiciary is safeguarded. Union legislature has elected representatives from constituent units. Now it just talks about union legislature. I don't think so it's related with federalism. Union cabinet has elected. It's also related about union. There's no talk about states here. Fundamental rights are enforceable. Now fundamental rights are of people, not states. So it is also not related. Independence of judiciary is safeguarded. This will be the answer. By because judiciary is independent. So if there will be any dispute between center and state, center can have in a rightful fashion can go to the Supreme Court, go to the judiciary, and judiciary in an impartial manner will take actions and ensure that federal character of India is not compromised. So I think the answer will be A. Okay. Now let me today, as I promised to you, let me cover one means question also, because this federalism chapter becomes very important, and I have not clubbed purposely this chapter with other chapters. I wanted to give adequate time to this chapter. So yes, these are few questions which are coming in. These are PYQs. We can do this question from 2014. Now this question says, though though the federal principle is dominant in our Indian constitution, the principle is one of its basic character. So though the federal principle is dominant, and that principle is one of its basic feature, okay, it is equally true that federalism under Indian constitution leans in favor of a strong center, a feature that militates against the concept of federalism. So it is basically saying this very simple thing, that India has a federal system, federal principle, and that is a basic structure. I told you the basic structure. The basic structure is that part of the constitution which is soul, which is essential part of the constitution. So it is saying that federal feature of our Indian constitution is soul. It's a basic structure, but yet there are few provisions in the favor of central government. We have to basically show this. Though the federal principle is dominant, so firstly you will show this, that yes, it is dominant. It is equally true that federalism is leans in favor of strong government. This is the second part. You have to show this. Very simple question. So how you will show this? So firstly, you will write introduction. In introduction, you can mention the definition of Indian federalism. The NCERT, the first page definition, which I told you. You can simply write about it. Federalism is a system of government or a set or institutional arrangement in which powers are divided between various levels of government. Simple. In Indian case, you can say in Indian case, it is divided between center and state. In the body, there will be two parts. First part, you will say that federal features as a part of basic structure of the constitution. So this will be the first heading, and in this you will write all the federal features which India have. What are the India's federal feature? Division of power. The legislature power is divided. I told you this. Schedule 7. Executive powers are divided. There is chief minister at the state and prime minister at the center. In the same way, you can also club this with administrative power. You can say that financial powers are also divided. For example, cess, vats, etc. Vats are applied by state on petrol, diesel, but income tax, etc. come under the purview of central government. Right? There are more federal features. For example, independent judiciary. Just now the PYQ which we did. Independent judiciary. Then to some extent even fundamental rights come under part of federal feature, right? Then there is strong constitution, existence of constitution. See, constitution, as I told you in the first class, puts limit on the government. So existence of a strong bulky constitution ensures that those features in the constitution are not unnecessarily changed by the central government. So the constitution in the way provides support to the state. So that also can be the point. So see, first heading may you are having a lot of points. Now the second part of the body will be, you will show the unitary features. Now it's very important, all these features you are writing, you are mentioning some examples. For example, unitary features are single constitution, there is no different constitution for states. Second point will be strong center in terms of financial matters. Now there is a data that center mobilizes 63% of the funds, state mobilizes 37% of the funds, but center's expenditures are just around 36-37%. States expenditures are about 63-65-4%. So this is the lopsidedness. This is in line with the strong center. You can talk about all India services. It shows that strong service because its members are spread throughout. The office of governor, emergency provisions may, there is a strong center. So lots of points you can make, and each point you can write articles. You can write here article 352, 356. You can substantiate them. And conclusion, how you will do conclusion? Always some optimistic angle, that Indian constitution gives a very unique form of federalism. Although states are federal and the center is strong, but it can be rightly called as a form of cooperative and competitive federalism. In this way you can complete your answer. This will be your very nice answer, and you can always in the body parts you can always write a lot of real the immediate examples which I told you throughout this chapter, right? So I think that will be it from federalism chapter. I will give you MCQs, and this time I will give you mains question also. You attempt those mains question, get them evaluated on our portal. So after writing the mains question, you can come to this mains evaluation. You can get your answers evaluated. And just for your information, we have already also started optionals evaluation here. So for 4 optionals we are live already. We will come with other options also. So optional answers also you can get them checked. Okay, so this is it from my end. Tomorrow, the next class we will do the local governments, and we will finish our NCERT of 11th Indian Constitution and Work. Okay, thank you, students.